Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sarel van Grennen, aka Mr. VG, and welcome back. This video specifically is about depreciation. Now, depreciation, if for those of you that are doing accounting, okay, it's maybe called different terminologies, different names in accounting, but the principle remains the same. That any asset, except for collectible assets, as well as houses, will depreciate or lose value over time. So when we talk about depreciation, it's either going to be on one of two methods. So it's either going to be on a straight line method or reducing balance method. Now, one of these two will come up in the exam. It's seldom that they ask both. But something to remember is that straight line depreciation is like simple interest, but just with a minus in the middle there. Okay? And then reducing balance is like simple or compound interest, but instead of a plus there in the middle, I've got a minus there. And that is the basics behind it. Interestingly enough, straight line method is more with smaller items like PCs or desks or, like furniture, while reducing balance method is for larger items that I want to last for a longer time in my business. So when looking at a sum, let's try and do this sum for me. Buy a computer for 12,000 Rand. Now, that automatically is a smaller item. So I would, in my mind, think towards straight line method, which is depreciation on the original price. Not what it's worth, but on the original price. What would the PC be worth after 3 years? So first of all, they give me the P value. Secondly, they give me the N value. And depreciation happens annually, so once a year. So it's not going to happen per day or per month, but once a year. This is where it is a bit different from accounting, which goes into a lot more detail about buying and selling middle of the year and, halfway through or quarter of the way through a year. We're not going to go that complicated. Now, then also they give me the depreciation rate. Starting with a formula, okay, for straight line method and substituting the values that I've got in. So P is 12,000. I is 25% or 25 over 100 or 0.25. The N is 3. So I'm going to substitute this in and my calculator gives me 3,000. That means the book value of the PC is 3,000 Rand. Now this is a rough estimate of what it is worth or for what you can sell it. Now, it's not necessarily going to be what we call market value. Market value is how much it would be worth on the market. But book value is how much it is worth in my book. So in the business books, how much would this actually be worth? Let's try another example, but by using reducing balance method. I want you to try this example before you watch the rest of this video. Let's dive into this video and get the interest rate at which a car's value, I don't know what it is, but it's P, will decrease by 60%. So that has to do with the A value. It's not the actual A value, but it has to do with the A value. In 2 years' time, so there's your N value, or N's value. And I know that I'm sitting with reducing balance method? First of all, let's just, instead of just saying P is X, for this example, let's make P 100% of X, which is just X, okay? Why am I doing this? Because I am losing 60% of my car's value. So I'm going to take that 100%, I'm going to subtract 60%, and that gives me 40% of my car's worth is still there. I hope that you get that. So taking the 100%, subtracting 60% from it, and that gives me my 40% of X. Substituting it into my reducing balance method, I've got 40% as being my A, 100% of X being my P, and the N as being 2. Remember, our end goal is trying to get I alone. So I must first of all get the bracket alone. So I'm going to divide both sides by 100% of X, which is lovely because there's a whole bunch of dividing away that happens. And it happens to end then at 2 over 5 being 1 minus I squared. To get now into that I want to get rid of the power. So that power of 2, I'm going to take a square root on both sides. And that leaves me with 1 minus I. I'm going to subtract 1 on both sides. And this is going to give me root of 2 over 5 minus I. But that is equal to negative I. Solving for I then gives me 36.75% per annum. Remember that depreciation is always per annum. And this depreciation is on the reducing balance method. So just for you to understand that the reducing balance method means that your asset, in this case, it could be a car, like here, actually loses value on what it is worth in your books. So it doesn't lose value on how much you bought it for, but how much it is actually worth in your books. This means that your car actually has value for longer. That's why it's used in the marketplace for bigger items, because a car you could drive for 10 or 20 years, even though it loses value every single year. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please tune in to our next videos where we're going to start looking at some applications of depreciation, which is in sinking funds. But before we can get to sinking funds, we must first do timelines. So please tune in to our next video about timelines. This is Mr. VG signing out. Have a beautiful day. Cheers.